Okay, so today we are going to talk about the distributive property and we are going to do some problems, solve some equations where we have to use distribution. So whenever you see a problem that requires distribution, you're always going to see parentheses. And then what those parentheses tell us is that we have to multiply everything on the outside of the parentheses by everything on the inside of the parentheses. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. So my first step in solving this equation is to do 10 times n. Whenever I do that, I get 10n. And then I have to do 10 times positive 8, which is going to give me positive 80. Okay? A lot of people forget that you have to distribute that 10 to each thing inside the parentheses. So in this case, the n and the 8, not just one of them. And I know that this is equal to 60. And now this is a two-step equation that we are just going to solve like we solved the problems yesterday. So I'll start by subtracting 80 from both sides. That gives me negative 20 equals 10n. That became 0. And then 10 times n, I want to do the opposite so that I can get n by itself. So I'm going to divide by 10 on both sides, leaving me with negative 2 equals n. And that would be my final answer for that problem. Okay, so we're going to walk through another problem. Again, remember the distributive property. So this time we have a negative number on the outside of the parentheses. And it's really important that you notice that negative because that influences your answer. So now I'm going to do the same process. I had some kids last year call it the rainbow method, where you draw a rainbow from what's on the outside to everything on the inside. So we're going to do negative 3 times r. This is negative 3r. And then negative 3 times positive 10. This is negative 30. Okay, so do not leave off that negative sign or subtract that 30. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, because a negative times a positive is a negative. And that equals negative 12. Now I'm going to add 30 to both sides. I get negative 3r. Those become 0 equals 18. I want to divide by negative 3 on both sides, leaving me with r equals negative 6. And there's my final answer for that one. On problem number 3, if you notice on the outside of the parentheses this time, we just have a negative sign. So, even though there's not a number there, written there, it's understood to be a 1. Okay, when there's a 1 on the outside of the parentheses, you do not have to write it. But if it helps you, feel free to fill that in. The rules remain the same. I'm still going to multiply everything on the inside of the parentheses by negative 1. So in this case, negative 1 times k is negative k. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. And this equals negative 15. If you notice, whenever I multiplied the inside by a negative, their signs changed, right? So the positive k became a negative k, the negative 2 became a positive 2. Now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, because I want k by itself still. So I have negative k. Don't forget to bring down that negative sign with the k. Those became 0 equals negative 17. And this is where you will mess up if you're not careful. I do not care about negative k. I'm interested in the value of positive k. We always want to know what our positive variables equal in an equation. So we have to divide by -1, divide by -1, just how in the previous problem we would divide by -3 to get r by itself. Here we're going to divide by -1 to get a positive k by itself. This gives me k equals positive 17, which is my final answer. This is the last problem we'll walk through together. So I have 8, and I have to distribute it to both sides, or to both things inside the parentheses. Whenever I do this, I'm going to get -80 plus 8n equals 64. I'm going to have to add 80 to both sides. That becomes 0. I get 8n equals 144. Then I'm going to want to divide both sides by 8, and I get n equals 18. That is my final answer. Okay, so now I want you all to do some problems on your own, and then let me know if you have any questions.